Fatima sat across from her best friend Lester, who looked at her with concern clouding his features. "So, how do you feel about your dad getting remarried?" he asked cautiously. "I mean, everyone in town's talking about your dad and his new fiancée. I know you've probably heard the gossip." She looked at him sharply. Ever since they were kids, Lester had never been the gossipy type. If he brought something up, it was only because he cared. He was more like a brother than a friend, especially with how close he was to her father. Fatima narrowed her eyes. "So that's why you dragged me out to eat? To gossip?" "Good thing we don't have class later," Lester said, changing the subject awkwardly. "The program's happening outdoors and my students are involved. How about you?" "I'm free till 2 p.m., but seriously, why do you look so worried?" I know we've been busy lately. Even at school we barely catch up. I just wanted to know how you really feel." Fatima stirred her drink slowly. Lester had always been the quiet, thoughtful type, but when he did speak, she always listened. "I'm really okay with it. If Dad's happy, then I'm happy. He hasn't been with anyone since my mum passed when I was 5, and I know he was hesitant about Sandra at first, afraid of how I'd take it or that people would judge him. But once I told him it was fine, he didn't hold back anymore. Sandra's 32, yeah, 15 years younger than him, but honestly, I don't care. As long as she makes him happy, I'm good," she continued. "Just don't make me call her Mom, all right? I'm 24, she's barely older than me." Later, she hugged her father tightly at the wedding reception. "Congratulations, Dad. I'm happy for you and Sandra." Nick smiled warmly and hugged her back. "You're really just going to call her Sandra? Not even Aunt?" Fatima chuckled. "We've already talked about it. She's more comfortable with first-name basis." Nick shook his head, smiling. "All right, the two of you are impossible. Go enjoy the reception, sweetheart. Sandra's just changing. She'll be back in a bit." "Thanks, Dad," Fatima said with a grin. "Enjoy your wedding." Nick's eyes softened as he watched his daughter walk away. "Thank you for understanding, even with the 15-year age gap between us," he whispered to himself. It had been a long time since he'd smiled like this, and it was all because of Sandra. Fatima excused herself and headed to the restroom. Lester tried to follow her, asking where she was going, but the MC had already called the single men to the front for the garter toss. "Go on," she said. "You're single, right? I'm just going to the bathroom." "I'm not interested," Lester muttered, standing beside her stubbornly. "You didn't even catch the bouquet. I'm not about to fight other guys for a garter." Fatima's eyes widened. "Is that why you don't have a girlfriend? Because you're always glued to me? Come on, go!" He started to protest again, but his dad dragged him toward the stage. Fatima laughed as she watched him frown like a scolded child, yet somehow the garter still landed in Lester's hands. In the restroom, Fatima picked a stall at the end. A group of women entered, talking loudly as they fixed their makeup. She was about to stand and leave, but paused when she heard their voices clearly. "Can you believe it?" one woman said. "I still don't get what Sandra sees in that old guy. Why would she even marry him?" Fatima's heart sank. They were clearly talking about her dad. These were likely Sandra's guests, women who knew her well. "Maybe for the money," another voice suggested. "No, she's not like that. Sandra's a career woman. I think she really loves Nick. I even heard she cried to her sister just to get her blessing." "She had to," the first woman replied. "Her sister couldn't accept that Sandra's boyfriend was so old. She fought for that wrinkled man like crazy. Maybe she sees a father figure in him or something. I don't know. Nick does seem caring, even if he's not exactly handsome. You know how Sandra is. She and her sister grew up without parents. They're emotionally starved, probably. Easy to fall for anyone who treats them well." Fatima clenched her fists, tears pooling in her eyes. It hurt to hear her father insulted, even as they acknowledged Sandra's love for him. "And what about his daughter?" one of the women added. "You saw her earlier? That teacher with the long chin? God, she's something. Can you believe she teaches looking like that?" They laughed cruelly. "Maybe she's also aiming for a rich guy," one of them said. "With that kind of money, someone greedy enough might go for her. Let's just hope she doesn't buy a boyfriend." Fatima's chest tightened. She wasn't that kind of woman. She wasn't looking for a man she could buy. She wanted love. Real love. It didn't matter if he was handsome. What mattered was that he was kind, loving. When she stepped out of the restroom, Lester was waiting for her. "You're late," he whispered, noticing the shift in her mood immediately. "Are you okay?" She straightened her posture and forced a smile. "Why are you even waiting for me? I didn't ask you to." "You caught the garter," she added, changing the subject. "You didn't run away, did you?" Lester ignored the comment. "What's wrong?" Fatima hesitated, then shook her head. "Nothing. Why would there be anything wrong? My dad's wedding just happened. He's happy." Lester glanced back at the hall before turning to her. "Want to get out of here for a bit?" She didn't respond immediately, but deep down, that's exactly what she wanted. "Dad might look for me," she said. "He won't," Lester said, gently taking her hand and leading her outside. Fatima found herself sitting by the pool with Lester. Both of them were quiet, just listening to the muffled laughter and music from the hall. "Why did your mood suddenly change?" Lester asked gently. "Did something happen with the women who came out of the bathroom before you?" Fatima shook her head slowly. "They didn't do anything to me. I'm probably just tired, that's all." Silence settled between them again. Fatima leaned back against Lester's shoulder and let out a long sigh, trying to shake the heaviness in her chest. "Do you think I'll ever marry a good-looking guy?" she asked quietly, sitting up. "Would it be weird if someone attractive actually liked me?" Lester's brow furrowed. "I thought you didn't care about appearances." "I don't," she admitted, leaning back again. "But I was just thinking, what if I end up with someone really attractive? Would people judge him for being with someone like me? I mean, look at my dad and Sandra. People say all sorts of things." She paused, then asked without looking at him, "Do you think I'm pretty?" Lester looked at her carefully, then asked, "Am I good-looking?" Fatima was caught off guard and laughed. She looked at him. Lester was tan, with features shaped by years of hard work. He wasn't muscular, but his body was firm from labor. He had always been attractive in a subtle way, not flashy, but pleasant to look at. "You're good-looking," she said, with a teasing smile. Lester frowned. "That sounded forced." Fatima nudged his side lightly. "You're not ugly. Besides, you're good-looking. For a best friend. Why do you ask?" Lester turned serious again. "Do you like someone now? Someone you think is attractive?" Fatima didn't answer right away. For her, even someone unattractive could become beautiful if she loved them. But she was thinking, what if someone handsome actually liked her? Would she be afraid of the judgment? She was used to being judged, but she'd be more worried about him. From that moment on, Fatima promised herself she'd only fall in love with someone whose appearance matched hers. Average, modest. She shook her head. "I'm not in love yet. If I do fall in love, you'll be the first to know." "Really?" Lester asked. "Of course. Who else would I tell? My dad," she joked. Lester chuckled, but under his breath he muttered, "So I'll always just be the best friend, huh?" Fatima didn't hear him. A helicopter flew overhead, and the noise drowned out his voice. "What did you say?" she asked. Lester took a deep breath. "I'm leaving for Australia." Fatima's purse slipped from her hands. She knew Lester had plans to go abroad, but she didn't think it would actually happen. She was shocked. Can't you stay? She asked quietly. I'll lose my constant companion. Lester bit his lip. You know I've been planning this for a long time. I'm supporting my younger siblings' education. It's hard to save here. I want a better life, but if I stay a teacher forever, I'll spend my whole life stuck. I want to be rich, not as rich as your family, just rich enough on my own. Fatima's eyes searched his. You already are rich, in love from your family. You want money? I'll ask my dad to lend you some. Use it to start a business. Please don't leave. I'll miss you. Lester's eyes grew moist. I can't accept help from you anymore. I'm ashamed. I have something to prove. Fatima was confused. Prove what? You're already a teacher. What else is there? I'm in love, Fatima, he admitted. It was then that she realized his feelings had changed. I have to prove myself, because the one I love is far from where I am. I can't reach her yet. Is she rich? Fatima asked, still trying to understand. Lester shook his head and laughed softly. She's kind, so kind. That's why if I ever say I love her, I want to have something to offer. I want to at least try to match the life she lives. Only then can I be brave enough to tell her. Fatima looked at him and saw the sincerity in his eyes. For the first time, it seemed very real. Lester had someone he truly loved. When Lester left, Fatima stopped teaching and focused on learning how to run their estate and her father's businesses. She and Lester became so busy that they barely talked. Then one day, she met a man who would change everything. You've got to be kidding me, man. She's ugly. That chin could poke someone's eye out. A drunk guy laughed as Fatima walked past, her heart pounding. She had just gone to visit a former co-teacher who was in need, and the alley she took was long and dimly lit. Now she regretted it. She hadn't expected to run into disgusting men along the way. Whatever, she's got a nice body, smooth skin, and she looks like she smells good, one of them said. She's got something, I guess. Her face just looks weird, like a mango, but she'll do. Let's go. Fatima quickened her pace. Then she broke into a run, but before she could reach her car, one of the men grabbed her and dragged her into a dark corner. Let go of me! Help! She cried. A hand clamped over her mouth. One man grinned. You scream, and we'll hurt you. Just relax. We'll make you feel good. Fatima's tears streamed as she struggled, but she couldn't overpower them. She thought she was doomed, until someone yanked the man off her. Suddenly, the stranger was throwing punches. One of the drunk men pulled a knife and nearly stabbed him. Fatima screamed, but the stranger was strong, determined, and sober. In moments, the attackers were on the ground. Miss, did they touch you? Did they hurt you? The man asked, his hands shaking. Fatima's voice trembled. Number, thank you. Thank you so much. The man wiped the sweat from his brow. Take these bastards to the police, before they get any more ideas. Fatima didn't wait. She pulled out a handkerchief from her bag and handed it to the man. He looked at it curiously. Thanks for helping me, she said softly. He took it. Your name's embroidered on this. Fatima. She nodded. I'm Marvin Acosta, just a stranger trying to help. She didn't know it then, but meeting Marvin would change everything. They kept seeing each other afterward. Fatima felt she owed him and wanted to repay him. Marvin always accepted her gratitude with a smile. Before long, they grew closer. Fatima's heart beat faster every time she saw him. One day, while walking together, Marvin reached out and tucked her hair behind her ear. Fatima, I like you. Stop it, Marvin, she said, nervous, but he didn't stop. Fatima, he said again, his voice nearer now. She could hear his footsteps behind her. She didn't want to face him. Her heart was about to burst with mixed emotions. What would someone like Marvin, handsome, confident, effortlessly charming, see in someone like her? He caught up to her. Why are you running? Are you crazy? he asked, slightly breathless. How could a man like you, someone so good-looking and almost perfect, like someone like me? She cried. I'm ugly! You've lost your mind! Marvin burst out laughing. Fatima blinked. What? She asked, her voice trembling. You said you're ugly, with your mango-shaped face and long chin? He gently held her arms. You're not ugly. I like you because of your heart. You're kind, caring, genuine. So what if your chin's a little long? It's beautiful. Fatima's mouth felt dry. I still don't get it. You're Marvin. You could have anyone. Why choose me? He smiled. Because I see you, not just your looks, but all of you. And I like everything I see. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for someone real, someone who's not pretending. Her heart pounded. So you really like me? Marvin's eyes sparkled. Yes, I like you, and I want a chance to prove how I feel, if you'll let me. Fatima had never imagined someone like Marvin would like her. Okay, she whispered. I'll give you a chance. From that moment on, everything changed. She wanted to tell Lester, her best friend, but there were things about falling in love that were just too awkward to share with a guy. Eventually, Marvin became her boyfriend. He treated her well, always taking care of her. She truly felt his love. One day, she introduced him formally. Marvin, this is my dad. I'm sure you already know him. And this is Sandra, my dad's wife. Marvin shook hands with Nick and Sandra. The dinner went well. Sandra was attentive, graceful. She had clearly embraced being a housewife. Though much younger than Nick, Sandra had never clashed with Fatima. Maybe because it was obvious she truly loved Nick. Sandra was now pregnant, with Fatima's sibling. Dad, I'm so happy for you, Fatima said, getting teary. I never thought I'd have a little brother or sister. Sandra laughed lightly. I know, right? I'm excited too. It's my first time, so I'm a little nervous. Nick placed a hand on Sandra's belly. We're here for you, love. I know it's hard, but we'll support you all the way. Fatima smiled. Sandra was sweet. She radiated real joy with her new life, and it was clear her happiness came from truly loving Nick. Is your dad's wife really younger than you, Fatima? Marvin asked as he walked her out of the estate. Yeah, Fatima replied with a nod. Sandra's younger. That's why it's hard for me to call her Mom or even Aunt. Why? Is it awkward? Fatima shook her head gently. Not really. She gave a small smile. Her dad and Sandra had gone through so much, judgment from others, whispers behind their backs, just because they got married. But Sandra never asked for much. She wasn't flashy. She genuinely loved her dad, and that was why Fatima supported them. There was a glint in Marvin's eye. So Sandra loves him that much, huh? That's rare, especially for someone younger. Good thing she's not looking for someone her age. Fatima laughed. Why would she? She's lucky to have my dad, and I'm sure she knows it. They're having a child together, and I'm just excited to meet my little sibling. She glanced at Marvin, who seemed deep in thought. It made her happy that he was trying to get to know her family. Months passed. Marvin proposed, and Fatima accepted, especially since she was already pregnant. He seemed like the right person to start a family with. But someone returned to her life unexpectedly, bringing with him a truth she never saw coming. Fatima, please, Lester said, his voice strained with desperation. Don't marry him. Fatima blinked, stunned. She had invited him to the wedding, never expecting he'd actually come. His brother told her that Lester had broken his contract and spent all his savings just to make it back. But now it seemed Lester didn't return to attend. He came to stop her. What are you talking about, Lester? She asked, confused and annoyed. Why shouldn't I marry Marvin? Lester shook his head violently, gripping her arm. No, Fatima, you don't understand. The woman I've loved all this time. It's you. You're the reason I've worked so hard. I couldn't say anything before because I didn't think I deserved you. But it's always been you, Fatima. I love you." Fatima pulled her arm back, stepping away. "Lester, I don't understand. You're my best friend. You're like a brother to me." Tears welled in Lester's eyes. I know you only see me as a friend, but I've loved you for so long. When I heard you were marrying Marvin, I couldn't think straight. I came back right away. I can't stand the thought of you being with someone else." Fatima closed her eyes tightly, overwhelmed. She didn't know what to think or how to respond. "Please," Lester pleaded, stepping closer. "Call it off. Run away with me. I promise I'll make you happy." She drew a sharp breath. "Lester, stop. I don't want to hear this. I don't love you. I love Marvin. He's the man I'm marrying. You have to accept that." Lester's face crumpled, tears falling as his shoulders shook. "Please, Fatima, listen to me. I've always been by your side. Can't you see that? I'll love you more than Marvin ever could. Please don't marry him." Fatima's anger flared. "Enough, Lester. Stop being desperate. Even if Marvin had never come into my life, I would still only see you as a friend, a brother. I care about you, but that's all." Lester's eyes burned with pain, and his hands trembled. Fatima inhaled deeply. "I've made my choice. I want to be with Marvin. I'm pregnant. We're going to have a baby. It's time for you to let go." Lester fell to his knees, his sobs echoing in the small room. "Please, Fatima, don't marry him. I love you. I need you in my life." "I'm sorry, Lester," she whispered, her voice breaking, "but I can't choose you. I've already chosen Marvin. Go find someone else, someone prettier, smarter, and someone who can love you the way you deserve. Just not me." After that day, Fatima never saw Lester again. She had hurt him, and she knew it. She expected she had lost her best friend for good. Still, life went on. She built a life with Marvin. They were happy, most of the time. But even in the happiest of moments, sorrow would soon follow. Fatima lost the baby. It was the darkest time in her life. She couldn't accept it. Her world shattered, but with Marvin's support and the love of the people around her, she slowly began to heal. Pregnancy didn't come easy for her after that. She often found herself apologizing to Marvin, even though he never blamed her. He always tried to understand. Thankfully, her little brother Terence brought joy back into the mansion. Even without a child of her own, life wasn't lonely with him around. Still, the family she thought she had wasn't what she believed it to be. "Marvin," Fatima called softly when she realized her husband wasn't beside her in bed. It was already 1 a.m., and she couldn't find him in the bathroom either. She headed downstairs after hearing a faint clatter in the kitchen. "Marvin," she called again as she entered. On the counter, she noticed a glass of milk, already cold. She frowned. "Whose milk is this?" she muttered. "Only Sandra drinks milk when she can't sleep." Moments later, Sandra stepped out of the kitchen bathroom. "Oh, that's mine," she said with a small smile. "You couldn't sleep?" "Yeah," Sandra replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. "I had an upset stomach earlier. Took a while in the bathroom. I haven't been feeling well." Fatima looked at her father's wife, noticing how she seemed to be sweating and slightly out of breath. She figured Sandra might really just be sick. But then, her eyes fell on a small red mark near Sandra's chest. Fatima stifled a laugh. She didn't ask. She knew her father was the only one who would have left such a mark. "By the way," she said, "have you seen Marvin?" "I woke up and he wasn't in bed." Sandra averted her eyes. "No, I haven't noticed. I'm heading back to our room now. Good night." "Good night," Fatima replied, exhaling deeply as Sandra left. She was about to go look for her husband when she saw him returning to the mansion. With arms crossed, she met him at the door. "Where were you? Do you know what time it is?" Marvin laughed weakly. "Sorry, Fatima. I had to get a paper from the car. I forgot about it earlier and didn't want to lose it, so I went down to get it." Fatima stared at him, then her eyes narrowed. "Why are your lips scratched? They look a little red." "I bit my lip earlier," Marvin replied. "Didn't realize it got cut. Let's go back to bed." She stared at him, but said nothing. All the little things she noticed, she tried not to think too much of them. Still, it bothered her how Marvin sometimes disappeared without a word. But then, he'd always pop back in like nothing happened. "Dad, why are you crying?" Fatima asked when she found her father weeping alone. "Did something happen between you and Sandra?" Nick shook his head. "No, nothing like that, sweetheart. I was just thinking, my wife is so young, especially with Terence still little. I'm getting older. What if something happens to me? What will they do then?" Fatima's brow creased. "Oh, come on, Dad. Don't say that. You look 40 to me, fit and strong. Just because you got a senior card doesn't mean you're old. You're still our rock." Nick laughed through his tears. "I love you so much, my daughter. I love you and Terence more than anything. Always remember that." Fatima smiled. She loved her father dearly. He had always been a good dad. She wouldn't trade him for anything. What she didn't know was that it would be the last time she would get to hold him like that. "Dad! Dad, what happened? Help!" Fatima screamed. She had just arrived at the mansion when she found her father, lying unconscious on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. He had fallen down the stairs. Marvin appeared out of nowhere and rushed to them. Moments later, Sandra entered and collapsed to the floor, wailing. Terence, frantic, was ushered away by a nanny. Everything was a blur. Fatima couldn't process what was happening. Sandra's eyes were swollen with grief. She didn't know what to do either. Thankfully, Marvin took charge of everything after Nick's sudden passing. The house was heavy with sorrow, only Terence brought any light. "Don't cry anymore, sis," Terence said, hugging her tightly. "I'm crying too. I miss Dad so much, but Mom says when we cry, Dad gets sad in heaven, so please don't cry anymore, okay?" Fatima nodded and held him close. They both missed Nick terribly, but in the midst of mourning, Fatima was about to uncover secrets that would unravel her completely. Fatima quickly hid behind the hallway wall, stunned by what she had just witnessed. She hadn't expected to find the two of them talking, let alone see Marvin's body pressed so close against Sandra's. Sandra was pushing him away, clearly upset. "Stop it, Marvin. We've been doing this for months. I thought you said you loved me." "I never said that," Sandra replied sharply. "Stop it. I'm done with this." "You're not scared your wife will find out what's going on between us?" Marvin taunted. Sandra's voice trembled. "There is nothing going on." "Come on," Marvin laughed. "You and I both know that's not true. Don't act like you didn't enjoy it. Your husband's gone. You're free now. What are you so scared of?" Fatima's fists clenched as tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to barge in, to confront them both, but she held herself back. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. "I said no," Sandra said, pushing him away again. "I don't want this anymore. I love my husband. What I did was wrong. But I've woken up, Marvin. I regret it all. I won't keep betraying Fatima and my husband's memory." Marvin smirked, leaning closer. "You can't resist me, not with your body. You got cold with Nick because you were too used to him. You loved me because I'm young and better than him, remember?" Tears poured down Sandra's face. "Stop it. I'm done. I'm already ashamed of what I did. Please stop. I want to fix things with Fatima. I want to fix what I broke. Don't make this worse. Please, Marvin." But Marvin only grinned. "Go ahead. Tell Fatima. Let's get it all out. Let her know everything. Then it'll just be the two of us. I'm sick of pretending to love someone I can't stand waking up next to. You, Sandra, you're who I want. Ever since I first saw you, even when you were pregnant with Terence, I've wanted you. Life is more exciting when you're in my bed." Enraged, Sandra shoved him hard and ran into her bedroom. Once they were out of sight, Fatima sank to the floor, trembling with emotion. She couldn't believe what she'd just seen. Marvin and Sandra. It had been happening behind her back, the very people she trusted most. But from what she could tell, it was Marvin who had started it. She saw the regret in Sandra's eyes, felt the remorse in her voice. It was Marvin who had ruined her father's marriage. Marvin who had ruined everything. That night, Fatima didn't come home. She drank alone, trying to numb the pain. Her own home held the root of her heartache. She didn't know if she could go back, but she had to. Her father's lawyer was scheduled to visit. Everyone had to be present. "Where have you been?" Marvin asked sweetly the next morning. "You're out drinking till dawn now?" "Don't talk to me," Fatima snapped as she brushed past him. She caught sight of Sandra, who looked like she wanted to say something, but didn't. Her eyes were full of worry. "The attorney's in the library," Sandra finally said. "I let him wait there since what we're discussing is confidential." "Ate Fatima!" Terence yelled as he ran toward her and hugged her tightly. "I looked for you this morning. I even checked your room with Marvin, but you weren't there. Where did you go? We were supposed to have breakfast together. Mom made our favorite." Fatima smiled faintly and patted his head. Terence was the only one in that house who still felt real to her. From that day forward, she decided he was the only family she had left there. They gathered in the library. The lawyer began explaining Nick's last will and testament. Fatima expected most of the inheritance would go to Sandra. She was the legal wife, after all. But she was stunned when the attorney said that nearly everything had been left to her. Terence would also receive some property, including the mansion. But Fatima got the majority. She couldn't understand it. Why would her father leave Sandra with nothing? Her thoughts were interrupted by Marvin's reaction. "What do you mean Sandra didn't get anything?" Marvin snapped. "She's the legal wife. She should have the largest share. Why not?" Fatima looked at him coldly. "Why are you so angry? You're acting like you're the one who lost the inheritance." Marvin glared at her. "What are you implying?" The attorney stepped in. "Mr. Acosta, while it's true Sandra is the legal wife, before his passing, Mr. Hidalgo updated his will. He declared that Sandra would receive nothing. Terence's inheritance will be held in trust until he comes of age, with Sandra as his guardian. But Fatima has full control over all the assets until then. Of course, Sandra can contest this decision in court," the lawyer added, but Sandra shook her head. "I'll respect Nick's decision. This is what he wanted." Marvin slammed his fist on the table. "Sandra, what are you saying? Don't just accept this. You're his wife. You have a child." Fatima turned to Sandra, her mind racing. She wanted to believe in her again, but the betrayal had already sunk deep. Could she ever trust her again? Marvin was what she watched most carefully now. Something about his reaction, his entitlement, deepened her suspicions. When he realized she was now in charge of the estate, he suddenly became overly sweet and attentive. She played along, but inside she was disgusted. She could see it now. He wasn't just a liar, he was a gold digger. As soon as the assets were transferred to her name, he became even more affectionate. "Money-hungry scum," she muttered after he left the room. She would get her revenge. She'd make him pay. But first, she needed time. There were still truths to uncover, still questions that needed answers. She wanted to kick Sandra out too, but thought of Terence. Her little brother kept her from acting in rage. He didn't deserve to be caught in the middle. "Fatima, do you need something?" Sandra asked when Fatima entered her room uninvited. Fatima didn't care if Sandra found her rude. Are you still seeing him? Sandra's lips parted. What? Fatima laughed bitterly. Don't play dumb. You're good at that. Pretending not to know, acting innocent. You're a traitor, a snake. Sandra's lips quivered. Fatima, I swear I don't know. Fatima slapped her hard. Still don't know? Tears streamed down Sandra's face. I'm sorry. I stopped everything. I know it was wrong. I'm sorry. Fatima's eyes welled. Don't act righteous now. I caught you. I've known for a while, and I've kept my silence. Sandra's eyes were pleading. I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry for what I did to you, and to Nick. I can't forgive myself either. But please, please don't take Terence away from me. He's all I have. Please don't punish him for what I did. Fatima's chest tightened. Sandra had been her stepmother, but also a friend. Now she was nothing but a woman who betrayed them all. And yet, she was still Terence's mother. Tell me, Fatima demanded, her voice shaking. Before my dad died, did he know? Sandra's body trembled, and she finally nodded. Yes, he found out. He got angry, but he kept it between us. He forgave me. I tried to make it right. I promised him I'd change. But he died so suddenly. I never got the chance to prove myself to him. He didn't want you to know because he didn't want you to be hurt. Both women were crying now, the weight of their guilt crashing down on them. I'm not kicking you out, Fatima said quietly. I want Terence with me, but I can't separate him from his mother. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, but I'm divorcing Marvin. I want it annulled. I don't want him in our family anymore. I'll try to fix this mess, for my father's sake and for Terence, but don't expect my anger to disappear overnight. Sandra nodded through her tears. Thank you, Fatima. You're just like your father, so kind, to everyone. Fatima took a deep breath as she left Sandra's room. She told herself she had made the right choice, for Terence, but nothing could prepare her for what she was about to do next. She found Marvin in their bedroom. I want an annulment, she said coldly. What? You want a divorce? Marvin asked, stunned. Why are you saying this now? What happened? Fatima exhaled sharply. Why don't you ask yourself why I'm doing this? Think hard, Marvin. You lied to me. You cheated on me. You used me. Of all people, you seduced my father's wife. How could you stoop that low? Marvin's face darkened. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me, she shouted. I saw everything. I heard everything. And I know exactly what you are. A gold digger, a liar, a snake, and you married me for my money. Marvin's eyes narrowed. You're calling me greedy? I married you for money? Yes, Fatima screamed. And I don't want to be married to someone like you anymore. She turned to leave, but Marvin's face twisted with fury. In one quick motion, he was in front of her, gripping her wrist tightly. Let go! You're hurting me, she cried, struggling against him. You really think you can just walk away from me? Marvin hissed. You think you can throw me away like trash? I said let go, Marvin! But he didn't. Instead, he slammed her into the wall. She screamed, but he quickly covered her mouth with a cloth. Fatima's eyes widened in horror. You won't leave me, Fatima, Marvin growled. You can't. If you want to be gone, then maybe I'll make you disappear. That way, I'll keep everything. I'm your husband, after all. She thrashed against him, trying to free herself, but he was too strong. Marvin laughed cruelly. Do you really think someone like me would fall in love with someone like you? If you weren't rich, I'd never have looked at you. Your wealth is what attracted me. That's the kind of life I want. But don't worry, I'm done with you now. Once you're out of the way, Sandra will come back to me. Fatima screamed behind the cloth, but Marvin punched her, silencing her. You think you're brave? You think you're beautiful? You're nothing. I'll get rid of you just like I got rid of your father." Tears ran down Fatima's face. Her father? Did he just admit? Marvin continued to beat her, dragging her half-conscious body across the room. Her vision blurred, and the pain was overwhelming. He stuffed her into a large sack, added heavy stones, and loaded her into his car. No one in the mansion noticed. When she realized he was taking her to the river, panic flooded her chest. This was it. This was how it would end. But when she opened her eyes again, she was still alive. Her body ached all over, her chest heavy with pain, and every breath burned. Fatima slowly opened her eyes and saw a man beside her. "Just rest," the stranger said gently. "You inhaled a lot of water. Your lungs are healing. The bruises and wounds are starting to fade too." A tear fell from Fatima's eye onto the pillow. She couldn't believe she was alive. Someone had saved her. Maybe God still had plans for her. As she sat up carefully, she realized the man who rescued her had brought her to his home after she had recovered at the hospital. That's when she got to know his name, Vince. He had seen Marvin dump her body in the river, had jumped in without hesitation, and pulled her out. Later, she learned Vince was also a plastic surgeon. "You're not going back there, are you? Isn't it dangerous?" Vince asked, concerned. Fatima clenched her fists. "I need to know what's going on. Marvin needs to pay for what he did to me, and to my dad." Vince shook his head. "I had someone follow your husband. At first, you were declared missing. Then out of nowhere, a body was found. I don't know where he got the body or how he pulled it off, but clearly it was staged so no one would keep looking for you." Fatima looked down. "Thank you for everything you've done." Vince let out a breath. "If you need more help, just ask. Honestly, my life's been boring until I found you. Now I feel like I have a purpose again." Fatima nodded slowly. Vince had shown her how quickly people could be discarded. Wrapped in a hoodie, she watched her own memorial service online. Marvin was there, putting on a dramatic show, shaking hands with mourners. Sandra and Terence were in tears. Sandra especially looked heartbroken, almost collapsing by the coffin. Fatima turned away, overwhelmed. But then she saw Lester. He stood silently near the front, just staring at the casket. Her chest tightened. It had been years since she'd seen him. He looked like a completely different man now. Successful, well-built, more refined than Marvin had ever been. She felt both joy and sorrow seeing him again. "What is this nonsense?" Lester shouted at the funeral, his eyes red. "Let me see her, even just one last time. Open the casket." Marvin stepped in front of him. "You have no right. She was cremated. There's nothing to see." "I said open it," Lester insisted. "Get out of here," Marvin snapped. "You're ruining the service. You think you had some right to her? Don't act like the grieving widower now." Fatima clenched her fists. Lester punched Marvin hard across the face. Chaos erupted as people rushed to break up the fight. She watched it all from a distance, heart breaking again. "Nick died suddenly," Lester shouted. "And now Fatima. You were supposed to protect her, but you failed." He faced Marvin with rage. "You think this is over? It's not. I'll find out what happened while I was gone. If I'd only stayed, I would have taken her away from you the moment I returned." Marvin yelled back. "You have no place here, Lester. You know nothing. Leave now before you make a bigger fool of yourself." Lester stormed off. Fatima could do nothing but watch. Even after everything, Lester was still the one who protected her, just like her father once had. "I need your help, Vince," she said, when she returned to his home. Vince's curiosity lit up. "What kind of help? If I reported Marvin to the police, that would be too easy. That man doesn't deserve a quick punishment. He destroyed my father. He tried to kill me. I want to destroy him slowly." Vince understood at once. Then it's time for a transformation, he said. I want you to change my face, Fatima said, her voice firm. You sure about this? Vince asked, tapping his fingers on the armrest. I want to become someone no one recognizes, especially not my husband. Vince leaned back, eyes narrowing. So, you want to disappear completely? Not just from him, but from everyone? Fatima nodded. They all think I'm dead anyway, so why not make it official? She smiled faintly. Besides, I've been judged all my life for how I look. Maybe if I'm beautiful, people will finally respect me. Maybe I'll be stronger. If Marvin sees me again, I want him to feel fear, because he won't know who I am. I want to be the one to take everything from him. Vince's excitement grew. You want revenge, and you think a new face will help? Fatima stepped closer, her eyes sharp with determination. I want him to suffer. I want to erase everything he thought he knew about me. Vince's grin widened. I've always wondered what it would feel like to completely change someone's identity. You'll be my first full transformation. Fatima's eyes narrowed. So, will you help me? Vince let out a low, wicked laugh. I'll help you, Fatima, not for you, but because I want to see it happen. I want to watch you become a different person. Fatima was nervous, but her resolve was solid. She was ready for a new life. Vince brushed the hair from her face. Once I'm done, no one from your past will recognize you. You'll be someone else entirely. You'll have a new life and a new mission. Fatima looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her heart pounded. She touched her cheek gently, barely recognizing the beautiful face staring back at her. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain but awe. She sobbed softly, but this time not from sadness. You're now Trixie Salvador, Vince said, full of pride. She wiped her tears and turned to him. I can't believe this is me. You better get used to it, Vince replied. You're not Fatima anymore. You're Trixie Salvador. Fatima, now Trixie, nodded. Thank you, Vince. You don't have to thank me now, he said. Once you finish what you started, then we'll celebrate. This is only the beginning. Fatima had planned everything down to the last detail. She was going to infiltrate the company she rightfully owned. She would buy back the shares in secret while slowly drawing Marvin in. She would seduce him, break him, and leave him wrecked. She knew where his weaknesses lay, and she was confident she could use her beauty and wealth to ensnare him again. Someone already bought Mr. Romualdo's shares, her staff informed her, shocked. What? Fatima asked in disbelief. Yes, ma'am, and it seems like this person is approaching all the other shareholders too. Who is it? I want to meet them. It's Mr. Lester Sanchez, ma'am. The wineglass slipped from her hand and spilled onto the table. She stared at her assistant in shock. She never imagined Lester would be the one doing this. She didn't know how he got the connection or the resources, but if Lester wanted something, he always worked hard for it. I was the only thing he couldn't get, she said bitterly, forcing a smile. If only she had accepted his love. Maybe none of this would have happened. Her father would still be alive. Sandra and Terence would still be happy. She had brought Marvin into their lives, and in a way, she felt responsible for everything that followed. Please, she whispered to the air, if you're doing this for me, Lester, don't. Let me handle this on my own. She took a deep breath. She wouldn't think about Lester, not yet. Once everything was over, she'd come back to him. She'd explain everything. She'd apologize for all the pain she caused him. Clark, how's the investigation about my father? She asked. Still no witnesses, ma'am, Clark replied. But we found something else. Someone suspicious was seen around the estate the day your father died. One of the estate's employees also vanished that day. We're tracking them down now. Fatima's expression hardened. Is that all? There's more, We also learned that Sandra has been searching for you for years. Fatima's eyes widened. She knows I'm alive? We're not sure yet, but we're keeping a close watch on her. Fatima sat quietly, thinking. She had never planned to include Sandra in her revenge. She didn't want to hurt her, especially for Terence's sake. But why was Sandra looking for her? That night, Fatima attended a party where Marvin was expected to appear. She wasn't wrong. He was there, blending easily with the wealthy guests, like he had been born into that world. She mingled effortlessly, but her eyes were locked on Marvin. She flirted deliberately, letting him catch her gaze, letting him get hooked, and he took the bait. "Marvin Acosta," she said with a flirtatious tone. "I hear your name a lot at these events. You must be pretty impressive." Marvin grinned. "It's all about hard work. Everything I have now, I earned." Fatima's fist clenched behind her back. "Oh, really?" she said sweetly. "I admire self-made men, especially the ones who came from nothing and climbed to the top. I wonder what they had to do to get there." Marvin laughed and sipped his drink. "You don't want to know. You're rich too, aren't you? You've got your own company, right? What's your name again?" Trixie Salvador," she replied, brushing her finger lightly against his arm. "I worked hard too, just like you, got everything I wanted." Marvin looked down at her hand. "What are you doing?" "Nothing, just touching your arm." She leaned in, voice lower. "You want a night with me?" Marvin smirked. "Just one night, that depends. If you're good, maybe I'll want more. I like your type, rich, beautiful, successful. It's such a turn-on." "My condo's nearby. Want to leave now?" "Sure," Fatima, now Trixie, said with a seductive smile. "I just need to go to the restroom first." As soon as she stepped away from Marvin, her smile vanished. She needed a moment to collect herself. Every word Marvin said made her skin crawl. She wanted to punch him then and there. But no, this had to be slow. She needed to get close enough to destroy him from the inside. On her way out of the bathroom, she bumped into someone, dropping her purse. "I'm sorry, miss," said a deep voice, kneeling to pick up her things. "It's okay," she replied, until she looked up and froze. It was Lester. She dropped her purse again in shock. His eyes searched her face. He stared at her as if trying to place something. "Miss," he said firmly, "you dropped this again." She took it with shaking hands, but then Lester added, "Stay away from him." She stared at him. "What do you mean?" He sighed and looked in Marvin's direction. "Stay away from that man. If you don't want your life ruined, don't get involved." Fatima's throat tightened as he walked past her. Her eyes welled. She missed him, her best friend, the one person who always protected her. She wanted to tell him everything right then and there, but she had to stay strong. She had to finish this. She returned to Marvin and left the party with him. Every time he touched her, she wanted to throw up, but she let it happen, because this was how she would win. As he reached for the zipper of her dress, Marvin suddenly swayed, his eyes blinking slowly. Moments later, he collapsed, fast asleep. Fatima stood up and fixed her clothes, glaring at the empty glass. Clark's sedative had worked fast, reliable as always. She looked down at Marvin. She could have grabbed a knife and ended it right there. But she didn't. She didn't want this to end quickly. She wanted him to crumble, to lose everything he built off her and her father's name. That was just the beginning. From that night on, Marvin and Trixie became close, not just personally, but in business too. He began to rely on her more, even seeking her opinion in company matters. But he didn't know the truth, that the woman he trusted now was the same one he tried to kill. At meetings, Lester couldn't help but glance at her. Fatima, now Trixie, tried to act normal, pretending not to notice, even as Lester's eyes observed every move she made. When she gently squeezed Marvin's hand, Lester's gaze lingered longer. Then, out of nowhere, his expression changed. "You don't eat mushrooms," Lester suddenly said. Everyone looked at him. Fatima froze. It was lunchtime. They were all eating together, and Marvin had ordered mushroom pasta. Her plate had a neat row of mushrooms lined up on the edge. Fatima tried to keep her composure, but her breath caught. "Do we know each other?" Lester asked softly. She swallowed. I don't think we've met before." Lester looked at her plate again. "You're allergic to mushrooms. You shouldn't be eating that pasta." She shook her head. "I'm not allergic. I just don't like the taste. It makes me sick." Lester's eyes narrowed, his stare deepened, and Fatima's heartbeat quickened. Without saying a word, Lester reached over and ate all the mushrooms on her plate. She froze. That's exactly what he used to do for her, back when everything was still okay. "I think I've figured it out," Lester murmured. Fatima tried to play dumb. "Figured what out?" He didn't answer. He just kept eating silently, the tension thick between them. Later, Clark came to her with an update. "Ma'am, we've confirmed something. Lester and Sandra were both investigating your disappearance. Sandra had approached Lester for help, asking him to find you." Fatima was stunned. "She's been looking for me all this time?" Clark nodded. "Also, she found out there was no body in the coffin, and Marvin doesn't know she knows." Fatima sat down, overwhelmed. So Lester and Sandra were working in secret, trying to uncover the truth, and based on what Lester had said earlier, he was starting to suspect who she really was. She hadn't expected Sandra to be the one pushing to find her. After everything that had happened, maybe Sandra really did feel remorse. Maybe she, too, had been just another victim of Marvin's manipulation. But the thought of Sandra confronting Marvin terrified her. If she wasn't careful, she and Terence could be in danger. "Please," Fatima ordered, "add more security around Sandra and Terence. I don't want them getting hurt." "Yes, ma'am," Clark said. And finally, the day came for her revenge. She had found the witness to her father's murder. She had gathered the evidence to prove what Marvin did to her. But first, she needed to bring down the empire he was trying to steal. "You ruined everything," Marvin shouted. "I trusted you with my company when it was already struggling, and now it's worse." Fatima laughed. "Your company? It was never yours. It was mine to begin with. The wealth you clung to, that was mine." Marvin stepped forward, his fury rising. "What are you talking about?" She looked him straight in the eye. "Don't you recognize me, dear husband?" Marvin's eyes widened in horror. "Fatima?" She smiled coldly. "Took you long enough." "You're dead," Marvin whispered, backing away. "I killed you." She stepped closer. "You thought you did. You dumped me like trash. But here I am." Marvin's breathing turned ragged. You set me up." "You destroyed my life, Marvin. You took everything from me, my father, my dignity, my peace." Before he could react, she shouted, "Now you'll lose everything too." He lunged at her, grabbing her by the neck. She gasped, clawing at his hand. Just then, Lester burst in. He tore Marvin away from her, slamming him against the wall. With clenched fists, Lester punched Marvin again and again. Marvin slumped to the floor, groaning, as Fatima gasped and coughed, catching her breath. From that day forward, Marvin was arrested. He was charged with multiple crimes. Justice had finally begun. "Vince, thank you for everything," Fatima said, hugging him tightly. "I couldn't have done all this without you." Vince gently rubbed her back. "It's okay. Just make sure you come back here after everything. Don't disappear again. To me, you'll always be Trixie." Fatima smiled. "Of course, and I can't stay long at the estate anyway. I still have business to handle in the city. So, yes, you'll see me again." She went back to the mansion, this time ready to reveal herself to Sandra and Terence. When Sandra saw her, she burst into tears. "I couldn't believe it when I saw you," Sandra cried. "I thought you were really gone. When I realized the coffin was empty, I started to suspect Marvin, and when I found out he caused your father's death, my anger only grew." Fatima looked at her with tears of her own. "You've changed, Sandra. I can see that now, and I've already forgiven you. We were both victims of Marvin." After a long conversation, she spent time bonding with Terence. He was shy at first, staring at her face, confused, but before long, he warmed up to her again. That night, she sat beside Lester. He kissed her hand, holding it tightly, as if afraid she might vanish again. "I'm sorry," Lester said, "for everything I said before, for trying to stop your wedding, for pushing too hard." Fatima caressed his cheek and shook her head. "I love you, but I didn't want to force you to wait for me, if you still want to." "I do," Lester interrupted, his eyes glistening. "Even if you can't love me the way I love you, I'll take any space in your heart, even if it's just a corner. It's enough." Fatima's lips trembled. "Thank you for loving me. You've done so much for me. I'll give myself a chance to see you differently. Maybe I can love you, not as a friend or brother, but as someone who can share my life." Lester's tears finally fell as he hugged her tightly. "I'll wait," he whispered. "Even if it takes forever, I'll wait for you. I'll show you every day that I'm worth loving." Fatima smiled. She was finally back, surrounded by people who truly loved her. She was ready to move forward. Thank God for a second chance at life. Fatima's story reminds us that not everyone who looks plain or weak deserves to be treated poorly. Every person has worth and the strength to rise again. Once again, this is Mr. Hope, and I hope today's story left you with something to think about. Thank you so much for listening.